She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Homo, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello! Welcome in, you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to Not So Straight Nerds. I am your host, Luke.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And today, we have a discussion on the releases of this latest weekend. We have F1 and M3GAN 2.0.
M3GAN, she's that bitch. Yes.
Indeed.
Anyways.
So, some very interesting conversations. We have decided to combine these two movies into one episode.
Yeah.
We thought that might make sure everything was kind of a full episode.
Yeah.
I think for both movies, I didn't have a ton of talking points to kind of jump off of.
I don't think so either. I mean,
think M3GAN more so, but
yeah, I enjoyed both movies, but I feel like it's easier to dissect details from M3GAN versus F1 because I feel like F1, a lot of people are saying like it's very I don't know how to say that word.
Formulaic.
Okay, I was really trying to say that word. I could picture it so well in my mind. Anyways, and I feel like that's fair. But then that makes it it's not like it's life changing. You want to talk about those details, so it's just like kind of straightforward, fun time. So.
Yeah. So we are combining these two conversations, so this may be a bit of a longer episode. We apologize for any inconvenience that might cause, but
it's okay. We'll put it in the description when we talk about each movie,
yes.
like we always do.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And we will, I guess, go through a spoiler and non-spoiler section for
Sure.
both.
Yeah.
We'll just try and probably get through the non-spoiler talk pretty quick. So, but we'll warn you when those times change.
Yeah.
So that being said, before we get too deep in,
Vibe check.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm doing pretty great, guys. I came over late after forgetting where I was driving, and by the time I got here,
crazy.
I had some breakfast waiting for me.
Yeah.
So the vibes were here. And
I got tired of waiting, so I made bacon, and then he came over, and I was like, wait, because I hear eggs are good in bacon grease. I don't like eggs, so I wouldn't know. I was like, how hard can it be to make scrambled eggs?
not hard at all.
No. So, whatever. So I made some breakfast. Now we're ready to go.
And I did my pros and cons for these movies. So
Her.
after having slacked for a little bit. So.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's exciting. I'm ready. How are you?
He loves touching that thing.
I bet it feels good, like the material. I bet.
Oh,
he
we're
likes
talking about
it.
the
The cat, sorry.
Right now, by the way.
I have started posting the video on Spotify as well.
Oh, exciting.
So, because I didn't know how much longer it would take. It definitely does take longer, but it takes about the same amount of time as the YouTube if you post them at the same time. So, might as well do it both. So,
Sure.
You can still listen to it on Spotify or watch. Now you just have the option.
Options. We love it.
Yeah. Anyways.
That being said, I think we'll jump...
Ooh. I also was going to post, or not post, I was going to say that the reasons we have some of our posters up, we have, in the middle, we still have Mr. Tom Cruise here, Ethan Hunt, in Mission Impossible. Because, like, a lot of people were comparing F1 to Top Gun Maverick. So that was, like, the close thing. We don't have a Top Gun Maverick poster, so sorry. I wish we did. Rick and Morty for, like, the TV show era, since we recorded 2 episodes on TV shows yesterday. And then we have Clueless, because I just feel like that's the closest to, like, M3GAN, which does not make sense, not movie-wise, just, like, vibes of, like, girl boss, know? So, specifically the main character. She's blonde. She's that bitch. Maybe she makes some questionable choices. So, murder, like, getting with your stepbrother, like, same thing, same level. So, anyways, let's move on.
Alrighty, so heading into our non-spoiler talk of F1. So, I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah. Since you have your pros and cons. Might as well.
Yeah. So overall, I think maybe maybe a brief conversation of what we thought we would going into this movie was going to be like. I personally expected it to be a solid movie. I will say I don't think I saw anything from the trailer that I think made it stand out among other like sports and specifically racing movies. I was kind of expecting there to be something that I was missing before going into it, and we went in, we watched it.
I don't think you were.
And nope. Maybe there's technically one thing, but also that one thing is in a lot of these types of movies.
Okay, I might know what you're talking about.
So,
but yeah,
there's like one plot point that they don't specifically show in the trailer, but it's not all that surprising. So it didn't, and it was weird because I will say off the bat, I think this is a solid movie. I think if you like sports movies, and especially if you like racing movies, this is a great movie for you.
Now, am I correct in saying that neither one of us has ever seen an actual F1 race? Okay, so we can't speak on that.
This is our forte as well.
Yeah, so we're not going to sit here and say like, if you like Formula One, watch this. I would imagine you'd like it, but actually I don't know, because maybe it's unrealistic, maybe it's not accurate to what would happen. I have heard a little bit of like they over-explain stuff, but I mean, duh, because if you don't know Formula One, then you might not know some of the things that are happening. Like they over-explain the safety cars, I guess, for people who wouldn't know. But I'm glad they did, because I didn't know. So it's just one of those things. So I'd imagine you'd like it, but any kind of racing car movie, like, feel good, like, it's gonna make you feel hype, the soundtrack is great, like, you're just gonna have a good time. Like, don't expect a Top Gun Maverick, because I do think that was
I will say, that comparison feels a little crazy to me.
I can see why they would want to say that, but I don't agree with that. I think the better way to say it is this was Brad Pitt trying to have his Top Gun Maverick moment. That's how I would phrase that. Not that he did. I think this was him aspiring to have that. So, there you go. So it still makes you feel great, and you still have high stakes, and you're still feeling for these characters. It's just not quite as deep or life-changing, and it is hard because there's a lot of racing movies and not near as many, like, fighter pilot kind of movies, but
sure.
And it's Tom Cruise. I'm so sorry, Brad Pitt. You'll never be Tom Cruise.
No one else can.
No, because it's Tom Cruise. Anyways,
so but I will say, even among, I sat next to you and our friend Katie when we were watching it, and Katie was crying like multiple times.
I was kind of wondering, because I thought she was, but I was like, I don't want to like look, because some people get like embarrassed. Sure. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening right now. But well, good. I felt the feels. I didn't feel it that much, but
I think I don't know what it is, but for me, I felt like I wasn't
like you were missing something. I
think whenever the emotion was supposed to come from like the characters, I feel like I wasn't connecting to that.
Oh, okay.
When it came to like the adrenaline from like racing, I was into that.
Oh, okay.
And I think
that's fair.
Because to me, one of the strongest things in this movie is the visuals. And I think like the visuals and the soundtrack and the score, Hans Zimmer score, I believe.
Yeah.
Which beautiful. Like
awesome.
Some of those early like musical scores as they're coming in, it was like, I hear the Zimmer here.
Yeah.
But it makes the driving feel very cinematic. They do a couple of really awesome shots.
Yeah.
I think towards the middle there's a really great one, and then towards the end there are a couple ones.
Yeah.
That feel like there's one specifically that feels almost like transcendent, which is very fun.
Is it when he feels transcendent?
I guess so. I don't know if we're talking about the same part, but
okay, we'll talk about it later. It's fine.
But whenever it's like a movie like focused on racing and like what that looks like, I think it's very strong. I fear, and we'll get more into maybe why I feel this way, but the characters, I feel like I didn't have a lot of stakes in them.
I can kind of see that too. I wanted to hear more about Joshua Pierce, just in general. Like, I would totally be down for a sequel if it was just about him. And, like, Sony Hayes can be mentioned, but, like, I don't want to see Brad Pitt. I want to see Joshua Pierce. Because I don't know, he was fascinating to me, but I didn't get a lot from him, and I wanted a lot from him. Not just, like, the actor, just with the writing. Like, it was very much a Sony Hayes movie. Like, Brad Pitt is the main character.
Yeah.
For sure. So, I don't know. And it wasn't like Sony Hayes wasn't interesting, because he made me laugh quite a lot with his, like, humor and just, like,
His
jerk
blunt deliveries.
Yeah, jerk moments. And it was cool that he always had, like, tricks up his sleeve and, like, was usually one step ahead or maybe multiple steps ahead, whatever. So, I don't know. That was fun to watch. But on a deeper level, I can see, like, it's hard to connect to them emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally see that.
But, so, you know, I didn't cry.
Versus, like, Top Gun Maverick.
I have a hot take, and I'm going to save that for when we get into the con section.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I fear it is, like, a very hot take.
Ooh, okay. Sure.
But, yeah, it makes F1 look really cool. I really like even seeing, like, the behind the scenes, how they make the car, how they do, like, the pit stops. Like, even all of those aspects I feel very in. The score. I don't think that there's a bad performance here. Maybe there's one performance I would say is too on the nose.
Okay.
But
I can think of a couple that...
But beyond that, I think, you know, baseline, the cast does their job.
Yeah. I think they do well with what they're given. I think the writing could have been better to really flesh out these characters more, especially since it's such a long movie. Like, what would you cut to then have space, or would you just make it, like, even longer?
I mean, considering this is a completely fictional movie, which I did want to look up before we started this episode.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you're starting in the middle of a season. Maybe it starts a little later, and there's less races you have to go through.
Yeah.
Especially because I think a handful of them are a tad redundant in like what their purpose serves into the movie.
Yeah.
Into like the greater story.
There was a moment. I gotta dance around this. There was a moment where they did kind of just like quickly go through 2 or 3 races,
Yes.
but I wish they maybe did that a bigger amount, or they did it separately twice. Like, maybe, you know, the first race is obviously important in the group, and then maybe a little bit of the second one, you know, combine the next few and do a short little scene. Maybe a middle one has like that breaking point, and then, you know, the aftermath is when they skipped it in the movie, and then you have your final one. So I don't know. I do think I agree with that. I want to know more about these characters. I want to see like the more emotional parts to them.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them cry? So.
Indeed. Like, it feels like there should be an emotional arc in this movie. I think we can agree where specifically that is.
Yeah.
And I think it's insane that I don't feel an ounce of that.
Okay. Interesting.
Like, from the character. Like, it almost, like, I feel like the actor should be able to do that, but it just feels like they were told not to.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Yeah. Direction, writing, whatever.
And then I also wanted to shout out Joshua Pierce's mom. I think
she was great.
I think she's a very charming actress, and
yeah,
considering she has a very small role.
Yeah.
Like, what a gem.
Yeah. There you go. I did like her. She's a lot of fun.
And then my last pro I had was I actually really liked the chemistry between Sunny and Kate. I think there's that scene from the trailer where they're like doing the like group meetup at the like restaurant.
Yeah.
And I do really like that whole scene. And I think it goes into I don't know. I feel the sparks.
Yeah. Well, are you talking about the card table, like the poker
Yes.
scene? Yeah. I also really liked that emotionally. Like with the decision of where that goes and what they do with their cards. I'm trying to be vague.
Sure.
I thought was interesting. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it was still interesting, and it felt like we were getting closer to that emotional beat. It just never quite got there. So, I don't know. I just wanted more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did love that scene. It was so good. Very good.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Any other pros to add on to that?
I think you could say his name, Javier Bardem. I don't know. Bardem. Fancy. I love that. I thought he did great. I'll admit, I've liked his performances and I've disliked some of his performances. Like I wasn't a huge fan of him as Triton, but I liked him in the Dune movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was just
He's
in part
great
2.
No, he was in both.
He was? Okay. Well, he was.
He spits
I'm
on the floor
remembering.
in the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought he was great in those movies. I don't know why him as Triton didn't work for me. I don't know. But I really liked him here. He's so handsome. Like, oh my gosh. Him in those suits, I was like, dude, like, you're like a DILF. I don't know if you're a dad, but like.
Oh, he is.
Okay.
I remember he was saying that
He's a dad as Triton, so. there you
whenever
go.
Triton and Dune Part 2 came out that really close together, he was saying
Yeah.
that, like, I do Dune for my son, and I doing The Little Mermaid for my daughter.
Aww.
Which is very
well,
cute.
that's sweet. You know, I'm not going to sit here and hate on it. It wasn't my favorite performance, but it's not like I hated it, and it definitely didn't bring down the movie for me or anything, so I still love The Little Mermaid. It was so fun.
Same.
Anyways, yeah, I thought he was great here. I loved his role, and he was hella stressed most of the movie, and that was really funny to see, and I thought he did that well, and it was good. I want to see more of him. So,
Valid.
and then is it Damson Idris?
I think it's Damson Idris.
Damson
As in, like,
Idris.
Idris Elba.
Idris, okay. He was great too. I really liked him. I wish they gave him more to do. It makes me wonder if he pulled in the reins or if the director pulled in the reins.
I fear it has to be the director, because I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many beats we just aren't seeing from that character that I feel like it's
Yeah.
a little odd that we aren't.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But I want to see more of him. I also think he's very handsome. Like, let's get him in, like, a rom-com, like, a horror movie.
You know,
I don't know.
I was looking at his IMDb to see if I had, like, seen him in something before.
Mm-hmm.
He was in an episode of The Black Mirror. He was in...
Wait.
Do you remember? I'll narrow
No,
it down.
I don't.
It was in season 5. One of the most, like, disliked seasons.
Oh,
the one
no.
with 3 episodes.
Which one was he in?
He was in the one with the car hostage.
Oh. Well, maybe it's a good thing I don't remember him from that.
He was the hostage.
Oh, my God. Okay. Wait. Why do I kind of remember that now? Anyways, I'm going to do him a favor and not remember that, though. I'm not going to think about it too hard.
That's one of... I think it's one of the worst episodes of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And that's such a shame. Topher Grace is really funny in it, though.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That's kind of crazy. I hope he does better stuff than that. I hope he gets better stuff than that. But,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? If somehow by a miracle that helped him get this movie, though, then props to him.
Sure, I mean, I guess he spends both movies in cars.
Exactly. But yeah, I would so be down for a sequel about him. I don't think that's gonna happen.
We'll call
but...
it F2.
Oh my god.
Also, I think we need to shout out how our friend Katie was sitting in seat
yes.
F1 while watching F1.
Oh, hey. He said I'm just gonna make my way down. Anyways, I was talking about the cat. Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, we got seat F1. I'm so surprised that someone didn't snag that seat. Like, I know it's against the wall. It's not towards the middle, but it's F1, you know? Anyways, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, you know what that means? We need to find... Whenever later on in the summer, we need to lock down seat F4.
Yes.
Fantastic Four.
Wait, okay, so true. So true. Anyways. And then my only other pro is that it made me want to watch the actual F1, which, you know, it was probably one of the goals. But like any kind of sports movies, like maybe I'd like this sport, and then it's like, no, you won, because it's not drama. It's not always dramatic like a movie.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'd be down to watch like a race or two. I recognize some of the faces because they got some of the actual drivers.
Yes.
I know Lando is one of them. I don't know the other person's name, but he looks similar. And I saw those two, and I'm sure
Hamilton
there was more.
One, and I've heard of him before.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if that's the second person. But anyways, I recognized more faces than names. But
think it
that
was
was
Lewis
really
Hamilton?
fun. I think so. That was really fun to include them like that. I bet they had a lot of fun with that. So, anyways, it's like I'm back in it. I'm in the game.
Locked in. Okay, so
And
go ahead.
sorry.
Keep
And
going.
they used actual footage. This one girl has been posting on TikTok that at an actual race, her mom like recorded a video of her outfit, and she was like going like side to side. It was in that like one of the earlier montages before one of the first races. And she had like sunglasses on. She had like this awesome fit. And I guess they used that, hopefully with her permission. She's posting how excited she is about it, so probably. But yeah, I thought that was fun. I was
very
like,
fun.
oh, they used actual footage.
That reminds me of like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like there's shots of like, because they like had just a parade going through a public space in, I want to say Detroit, and they like had footage of like people from like construction sites like dancing along to the movie, and they like included those shots in the actual movie itself.
I love that. I'll have to rewatch that because I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
Very fun. Didn't know
Just
that.
reminds me of that.
Yeah.
But going on, any other pros before we move into our cons list?
I don't think so. I mean, I definitely don't, like you said, I don't have a ton of thoughts. Just like an average amount. That's why we're combining episodes.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like the making of this movie is done super well.
Yeah.
And
Like the budget is high, but I can see where it went
yeah,
too. Like it was definitely used. So
absolutely.
yeah.
I think going into the cons,
Okay.
I think for most of the cast,
Mhm.
I think it's one of their most forgettable performances for me.
I think so too.
Like I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be like bad memorable. I don't think it's going to be like one of their great performances.
No, it's not going to get awards.
I think it's
buzz.
aggressively
Yeah.
middle ground for a lot of these actors.
Yeah.
I think Brad Pitt does what Brad Pitt does in these movies. I fear I've seen him do this role most of his roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine. That's clearly what they wanted here, and he does good.
Yeah.
And he definitely shines with how he does a lot of his dry humor or dry quips. I think, what was that? What's his name? Joshua Pierce. Yep,
Oh,
that's his whole name. Joshua
Pierce.
Pierce. I think his character, we talked about it, feels like it was almost kind of cut around the emotional beats, which I think is missing from this movie.
Yeah. Well, and there's an actress, Simone Ashley, who's in Bridgerton. I've mentioned her a couple times. She was also in The Little Mermaid, which is fun. She's one of the sisters. She was supposed to be in this movie and play like a decent role. Like she's in the trailer more than she is in this movie. She's in this movie for about maybe 2 seconds, if that.
Dang.
And she promoted the hell out of this movie. She was in the trailer. I think it looked like she was playing one of Joshua Pierce's like assistants or PR manager or somebody. 'Cause she was like walking with him with a clipboard, all like official. Like so, it's probably someone on his team. So it's like, I wonder why they cut her out, and then are we missing emotional scenes from him with her from that? I don't know. It's just they totally cut her character out.
That's interesting.
You wouldn't even know she was in this movie. She's basically not.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
Kind of crazy.
it's very goofy. I have to wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, I think the plot is incredibly straightforward to basic.
Definitely
it is
been done before.
It is almost very beat to beat with other racing movies.
Formulaic.
It's very formulaic.
That's like most of the people who rated this like a rotten score said like it's no surprise this is like Formula 1 is formulaic or whatever.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think the way you get out of the formulaic is by making it about your characters.
Yeah.
And I fear that's just for whatever reason not what they wanted to do here.
You
Or
could
not
have
what they
had
ended up
like
doing.
your Cars 3 moment. Because I like Cars 3.
It does give me some Cars 3 vibes.
Yeah.
Throughout this one.
Like, oh.
So yeah, I was really looking forward to being surprised by something in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, if you had asked me what the plot of this movie was beforehand, and I had like written out what I thought it was going to be,
It'd be
I would have
accurate.
been very dang close to exactly what this movie is.
Yeah, I agree.
Next, there is one scene, and it's like the one thing that like you didn't know for sure was going to happen in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of it that I think takes me out really hard.
Okay.
It is one of the moments that Katie cried.
Mm-hmm.
And I was and I was like, oh. But then like they kind of show the aftermath of it, and it's like, oh. That's
almost
it.
nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's it feels like it should be, especially for like the effects that they use on it. It feels like it should be a bigger deal than it ultimately is in the movie.
Well, and I think that could have been a cool opportunity to have that really, really emotional moment. And I think they just skirted around that way too much.
Yes.
It's like it definitely is emotional for that character, but it usually in that moment when you're following this formula, it's like the end of the world for that character, and then they have to build their way up. And I feel like he really just had to sit and wait. He didn't really have to build up. He just had to like wait for his like thing to heal, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I completely agree.
I mean, I think they maybe tried to do that when he did the simulation again and realized it could have been avoided if he just listened. But also it pissed me off that everyone was putting blame on the wrong person. I was like, it's definitely like not this guy's fault, like at all. He actually said the opposite. I'm glad he actually pointed that out later.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish, why is everybody else thinking that? You heard that he said that. Why are you then blaming him? He literally told him not to do that. Whatever. Anyways, we'll get into what I mean later.
Yeah.
If you watch the movie, you probably know what I mean. But
my next point was, especially in like the first race that you see them do, it's almost cartoonish. How it's like, oh my gosh, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And
Yeah.
it's like,
I think they say that in the movie.
it's like
Like the
guys,
commentators.
this is not your first. Like we're halfway through a season. Like whatever. Like the
Yeah.
drivers are supposed to be in a bad place,
Yeah.
but like the crew should not be here.
Yeah.
Like you see them, there's like specifically things set up like in case things go wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like those don't even happen quickly, and it's like that's the whole point of having these spares.
Yeah.
It feels a little crazy.
Yeah. I agree. There was one scene where I just like literally shook my head when they didn't put a tire on right, but then they left something on the ground and they ran over it. I was like, I mean, you should be fired for that. Like, that's your whole job, and that's such a rookie mistake. Like, you honestly should be fired for that. That's kind of crazy. And they weren't, so I don't even know if they were that yelled at. I'm like, I'm not like, I don't want you to get yelled at, but also, like, this
Be
is
better.
your job. You need to be better when you're at this level. Because I guarantee there's someone ready to take your place. Like, that's what it is. That's, it's like actors who, don't want to work hard. It's like, then someone's going to be there to replace you.
Yeah.
So, I feel bad, but I don't feel that bad. It's like that. If that's what you want to do, you have to do it. And you have to know what energy you have to put into it to, do it well. So, that just frustrated me so much. I was like, why? How could you do that?
How could this happen to me?
You had one job. And also, they struggled with that car design for, like, way too long. I'm like, ugh. I don't even know.
No, that's also a very fair point. How did you get halfway through the season and still have everyone saying you have a horrible car?
Yeah. Would they call it a shit box?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, that's horrible. How can you get at this level and have that bad of a car? I'm not saying you have to have the best. Like, that's the whole point, is you're supposed to have development and learn to get a better car. But, like, to call it a shitbox is crazy. And they did it several times because it was at several races. Ugh, it was so frustrating.
Indeed.
And then, anyways, I'll talk about that later.
Sure,
Something
sure.
with the new car, but anyways.
Next up, I want to say there's something that it's revealed that Sunny Hales is keeping from
Hayes.
Sunny Hayes. What's Javier Bardem's character? Ruben? No.
Ruben.
So he's keeping something from Ruben that he discovers a lot later on in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like something that, like, legally needs to be, like, cleared before someone can race. Like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, it feels like it's insane that, like, he would have not known that this far in.
Yeah, that no one would have? That's kind of crazy. And I have a similar problem with the car stuff, with the people trying to say, like, I don't want to say it because it is a spoiler. So, so something with the new car bothered me in that whole storyline, because it's like, wouldn't you have checked? And also, like, can't you check? Why do we just throw this out? I don't know.
And then my last one that I didn't put down, but if I were to say someone gives a bad performance here, it's gonna be Tobias Menzies, who plays like a board member in the movie.
That's who I thought you were going to be talking about. I thought it was either that guy or the girl that messed up in the pit crew. I didn't really care for her that much.
Fine.
Yeah. But, yeah, I totally agree with that. It was giving, like, he wanted to be Justin Hammer, but he wasn't.
Sure, that's...
You know?
He certainly wasn't, like...
You're not Sam Rockwell. Like, stop acting like it. No one can be Sam Rockwell.
Not even Sam Rockwell. JK. Love you, Sam.
Anyways.
Any other cons to add?
No, I'm good. Oh, wait. No, covered everything. Good.
Alrighty, let's get into our spoiler talk. We're going to get spoilery on F1. So if you haven't seen the movie, you have been warned.
Yeah.
So, here's my hot take.
Okay.
I think this movie and the Gran Turismo movie are like the same score for me.
Okay.
And I think Gran Turismo does a good handful of things a lot better than this movie does. Specifically character.
Okay.
Like, I will give this movie like visuals, and they like, I think both movies are really cool racing movies, and they make racing look very fun. In Gran Turismo, I like the way they like drive outside of the race, and like on the streets and whatever, which they don't have here. But this movie does make racing seem very cinematic, and very, you know, like it's very easy to invest in the racing here.
Yes.
But you know, there's a car crash in both, and you know. Ultimately, the driver in Gran Turismo, you know, the beat from there wasn't that he wasn't able to race. It's that, you know, someone had died from the result of that crash.
Yeah.
And I can't help but compare these two movies. To be fair, this is like, these two are like the main racing movies I've ever seen. Like in theaters, I would say like sport racing. So
probably me too, because I didn't see Ferrari. I don't know if that's like a racing movie or more like the behind the scenes of the people.
I know Ford versus Ferrari is one that we would want to watch.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
But Ferrari is another one that came out with Adam Driver, I think.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. Yeah, I don't know if that's a racing movie or not. I don't think it is.
I think it is.
I don't even know. I don't know.
But
because Ferrari is one of the main cars in F1.
Yes.
So it might be the one with Lando. I don't know his last name. Maybe that's his last name. I don't know. I know what he looks like, and I know that name. So,
but I couldn't help but compare the two because I really like the acting in Gran Turismo, and like I will say, I think the performances of the cast in that movie are like on the better end of their portfolios. Whereas, like I said here, with the cast that I knew I was going into, I had a lot of higher expectations for them.
Yeah.
Like, Gran Turismo surprised me with their cast.
Yeah.
F1 kind of
Disappointed?
a little bit. I had a lot of higher expectations. I expected these performances to really carry the movie.
Yeah.
And they're borderline one of the weaker parts of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm trying to get him to take a nap in my lap. You're a cuddly cat.
What?
Cuddle with me.
Some of the visuals that I really liked from this movie that stood out to me specifically was the last lap. Whenever Sonny Hales finally does that last lap to finish the game and he has to stay in first place. Like, they do, like, a very quiet, like, just hearing, like, the wheels on the road, and, like, you're, like, from, like, the dash cam, and you're seeing it, and, like, they do, like, the almost, like, the reverb audio, where it's just, like, oh, I really like it when movies use that kind of audio really well.
Yeah.
And then, like, the huge cheers that it, like, kind of builds up to at the end. A very, like, mesmerizing moment.
Mm-hmm. It was so cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my favorite shot from the movie.
That's fair. I thought I really liked the moment. So he at some point in the movie he says, you know, every now and then, when I'm racing, it's like everything goes silent. I'm just driving, like I just focus on the car, and it's like I'm flying. And then when he has that moment, I'm like, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. 'Cause it's like you don't even say anything. You feel like he's flying before a character in the movie is like, what happened? And they're like, he's flying. What happened? He's flying. Anyways.
No, other ones I really liked, right after he wins, they have a lot of fireworks going off, and I don't know what it is, but they look really nice.
Yeah.
It's, like, also very
so
pretty.
Cool. I also liked the whole, because I feel like different sports have different after game celebration rituals, where, like, baseball, a lot of times they do, like, the Gatorade on the head or whatever, and this one, I guess, is, like, champagne bottles. Popping. I thought that was so cool. I was like, it's fun to know their thing. So, because that's always been one of my favorite things in baseball is, like, what color of Gatorade are they going to dump on somebody this time? So, yeah, very fun.
Yeah. And then the other one that really stuck with me was the crash scene.
Yeah.
Like, the way that, like, the car, like, flew.
Oh, my gosh.
It looked very cool.
It was crazy.
But maybe going back into that con I had.
Yeah.
That car was so on fire.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. That was basically an inferno. And then it, like, cuts to him in the car. And it's like, why is the fire going over him when it's that intense?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of spitballing maybe, like, the car's built for that to protect the inside. Maybe the driver's suit is built for that. Maybe both. I don't know. But I do feel like visually, just from an audience perspective, especially if you're going to over-explain all this other stuff, I feel like it's not that hard to, you know, have a little moment, especially while it's happening, just the commentator being like, well, hopefully it's okay because, like, the suits are designed for this, you know, something quick like that. But that didn't happen. And so, yeah, I think that's totally fair for some audience members to see that amount of fire and be like, there's no way. It's just the hands.
And, like,
so.
And it was also very crazy that, like, you know, it's just his hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And then he just had, like, through, like, a month off. And then he was back. And it's like... And then we
like
just
3
don't
weeks.
see any emotion on that.
Yeah, that's
like,
my biggest problem with that.
So you could have died doing this race, and we're not gonna talk about, like, how that made you feel. You would have been dying, you know, doing this thing you were working towards your whole life. You know, in your mind, you think that it was someone else's fault that this happened. We're not gonna talk that out at all.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot, and especially with how he was with his mother, like, you could have had that moment there be the emotional connection. You could have had it, you know, I definitely wanted them to keep the scene, and I'm so glad they did, where he reruns the simulator again and realizes, oh, if you just, like, listened, you wouldn't have crashed. You would have won. And then maybe when he goes and tells his mother, like, it was my fault, it was my choice, maybe that's when you have that scene be a little longer and have that conversation, that emotional moment. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't happen. So they didn't quite go that far. But I really love the simulation scene for sure.
Sure. I think the simulations and like racing are really cool.
Yeah. So that's so fun. Anyways, my problem where I felt similar on was when they get like an anonymous tip that the car is like illegal or something like that, or they're not getting their parts from where they said they were or something like that. There was some problem with the new car design where they're like, you can't race this next movie. And then they're like, oh my god, we have to race the shitbox again, like we're never gonna win. My thing is like, I feel like you have to look into that before you just like believe someone about that. I don't know. It's like when somebody would accuse someone of taking steroids in a sport, you would check.
Well, another thing on that point is I feel like as long as they can have access to the blueprints for the piece that you can physically see on the device, I feel like you should have people ready, like, as their job to, like, come and inspect the fairness of the vehicles.
Yeah.
And, like, be able to come and be, like, you should be able to eyeball, like, that this piece is like what they're saying it is.
Yeah. Either verify it, have somebody that can verify it, or don't just like accuse them up front and then prevent them from using it until you can verify it. Like that shouldn't be how it works. Maybe it is in real life, I don't know, but that's stupid if it is. So that frustrated me.
Or I don't know, maybe another piece would be like, you guys are on a probation here. You guys can use the car, but if we find out that this is real, then we're going to take away your points for this race.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take away whatever you win. So, yeah. That's also what I thought. I'm like, just let them race it and then take it away. Wouldn't that almost hurt worse? So, I don't know. That was kind of crazy to me.
I don't know. But you know, I'm sure there's actual rules and regulations. How realistic that is, I don't know. That feels like a pretty wild plot line.
Yeah. There's just kind of like the nail in the coffin of like, wow, literally everything's going wrong. So.
Some other specifics I want to say that I think I like in some of these characters. With Sonny, I like the whole aspect of him being a failed gambler.
Yeah.
And then like the way he's translating that onto the race. I think that is
the
very
card.
fun. And I think that does make it pretty unique.
I wish we got to see what the card was.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be a king because he won, you know?
Yeah.
Or he had on his helmet or suit or some, I think maybe his suit, like his sleeve had like 7 of spades or something like that. And I was like, it could be that and I'd be satisfied, or it could be a king and I'd be satisfied. But we didn't see it. He did look at it though, which is fun. So, but anyways. Yeah.
And then I also really liked with Kate's character. I don't know. I like the idea that she felt she was like trying to prove herself. And she was the only, like, you know, car designer in F1 that was a female. And I liked her line where it's like, I don't prove them wrong until my car wins.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked seeing her like go through the designing process. I thought that was very fun.
Yeah.
And then I liked her chemistry. So I will say another part is that, man, does Carrie Condon look so much like Rebecca Ferguson? Literally,
I could see it.
I did not know that was not Rebecca Ferguson until like 30 minutes ago when I was downstairs looking at the cast.
That's so funny.
And you know what? With it knowing it's not Rebecca Ferguson, I will say I think I like her character a little bit better.
Okay. She was Irish. How'd you not put it together for
I thought she was doing a voice.
Oh, that's so funny, actually.
No, if you look at, and I was looking at pictures on the side by side, and I've seen a tweet where it's like, today's the day I found out that these are 2 different actresses, and it's like,
yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought this, because they look so similar, especially side by side. I think I know who which one is, but then I'm like, wait, it's oh my gosh,
yeah, that's really funny.
Like they are crazy similar. I will say, considering I like her performance a little bit better knowing, like
okay.
I
Why?
I don't know, because I think I have higher expectations for Rebecca Ferguson.
Okay.
Which,
That's
sue me.
so... No, that's valid. I mean, she's so... I saw an edit of Dune the other day of, like, they edited the voice power. Oh, the aura. And I forget how awesome that scene was when they put the gag over her because they know she has the voice, but then Paul is able to do it to get the gag off, and she just immediately is like, kill him. I'm like, oh my god, I love you, Rebecca Ferguson. Please use that on me. Please use the voice on me.
Me next.
Yes. Like, I adore Rebecca Ferguson. She is so hot and she's so talented. Ugh, what a queen.
Yeah, and I will say, I feel... Was she nominated for Banshees of Inisherin?
I think so. That's
for her.
why. I think so. Let's see. I'll look it up. You
Also
can
found
get-
out. I also saw that she's the voice of Friday from the MCU, which is also
Really?
very fun. Yeah.
I love that.
Well said.
Okay.
She, even in the conversation when I thought like the roles were good, she does stand out for me. And then knowing that she's not someone I thought was a higher caliber actor in my opinion, I think that does make it stand out even more. I feel like she has trajectory to get back to another Banshees of Inisherin very easily.
Yes, supporting actress.
Good for her.
Good. She deserved it.
Jamison Idris, who did Joshua Pierce, like I said, I feel like I've said this a couple times, but I just wanted to see more.
Yeah.
Like,
and I felt like he could give more if they let him.
I
So, I don't know.
I fear I should have left this movie wanting to see him in something again, but I don't feel the itch to like say that I'm there. I'll be happy to see him again in something, but
Yeah.
this wasn't a movie
want
that convinced
to-
me to see a lot of this cast again.
Well, I want to see him because I want him to have a chance to prove he was capable of more and
Sure,
just wasn't allowed
absolutely.
to, you know? So, I hope it was not him reeling himself in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to see him again.
So,
Ugh, this bitch is sitting on the floor sleeping.
what a king.
He's like, I don't want to cuddle right now. And you know what? Fine, but I'm a little sad, okay? It's fine.
And then the records, his like back injury from like a crash that
Yeah.
Sonny had gone through before, and like, man, there's no way that someone doesn't have to approve their physical,
That's
like,
kind
and
of
medical records before they race. Like, these are
Yeah.
like professional athletes.
And if you don't, that's crazy. That's
I would be
ridiculous.
so surprised if that is how that works.
That's very surprising to me. It's also just surprising that because of how well known he is, that's not well known because he had a crash. So I'm like, how did that not get out at all? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
Who
another
knows?
thing I didn't like, Sonny just like giving that asshole reporter money. Like,
I mean, I didn't want him to have the money either, but I saw that as like, Sonny may be a jerk, but he's gonna fulfill his promises, even if he doesn't want to and maybe shouldn't. Like, he did promise that, so. What can he do? I didn't want him to have it either. I was like, oh, that sucks. But that was, I don't know. You know.
Any other comments or thoughts to add to this movie?
I don't think so. I'm ready to move on to reception and box office if you want.
Absolutely. So, it looks like critic score we have 83, audience we have at 97.
This was yesterday. It could have changed like by 1 point,
Okay.
maybe. But
For cinema score we have an A.
love to see that.
IMDb we have a 7.9, Metacritic at a 68.
Metacritic's kind of low for me, but Metacritic, I don't really pay attention to Metacritic. all that much
Metacritic, I don't
anyways.
understand. Like, it's not in my brain how that one works. Everything else
No.
I know how we got there.
Yeah.
I can
So-
understand. I think I can understand these scores, and
I think so too.
And honestly, I'm lower than most of them
Well,
on my
because
personal score, but
I can see how critics would be able to view it because they've probably seen way more movies, so they can kind of see it. This is like pretty standard, like it's not really changing the game. But I can see audiences being very hyped and feeling good about it, same with the cinema score, same with IMDb. Like, I can see how that happened.
Yeah.
So, I will say I'm more on par with that. I think I ended up giving it 4 or 4.5 stars, something like that, out of 5. So, I'm more towards like the 90 range. But
I'm of
okay.
the mindset where it's like, yes, this is a movie that does all of the tropes of a racing movie.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think the filmmaking aspect of this movie is what levels it up, and it's very fun.
Yeah.
So it's overall a very good
fun.
movie, if not a very by the numbers movie.
Yeah. The budget was $200 million, which is a lot. However, I want to reiterate that you could definitely see where that budget went towards, not just the cast, but like the visuals and the cars they had to build and like the sets and who even knows. So you could definitely tell where that went.
I will say, looking at the box office, domestic opening so far, we don't have the official
Full weekend.
yet. We are recording on Sunday.
Yeah.
But it looks like domestic is currently at 55,600,000. International is up to 88 million. So currently it's sitting at 144.
What are you looking at? Mine's still like not even 1 million in international. Oh, I just updated it. That's crazy. That means it just literally just updated. That's crazy.
That's funny.
Okay, well, wow.
So that's
Domestic be slacking, I guess.
I'm surprised it has so much international.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
guess actually that makes sense because it would be international.
That's fair.
That's so true.
Yes, yeah.
It's like if they made a movie about the Olympics. Also, why don't they make a movie about the Olympics? Wait, like they could do so many things with that.
Was I Tanya not Olympics?
No. I just thought like another international kind of celebration thing.
I mean, honestly, with these numbers, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more
Like
of a push with sports international movies.
Well, like football, not like international football, not American football.
Sure.
Like that's kind of crazy. You'd have to be careful what you name it, because it does get confusing. But you could do like a Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone kind of thing, where like international you call it football, but America you call it soccer or whatever. Like if you have that word in the title.
Sure.
So
sure.
that would, yeah, they should do that.
Yeah, but good for this movie. It feels like it's
Yeah.
on a very
Good track.
I have to wonder how these holds are gonna do, but this is a really good debut, I think.
Yeah, very good debut, which is good. You need that right now when the scene is so crowded. But also, I just love to see it because I was kind of worried about these summer movies because so much is coming out. But it seems like people are really showing up to the movies. They're just showing up a lot, which is always great news. So, definitely feel great about it.
So it is currently at 144
Million.
across the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to project where this movie lands, where are you ballparking?
Well, it needs 500 million to break even. I don't think it's gonna hit that. I don't know. What's another movie that did this well? I don't even know. I feel like it's gonna hit more like the 400 range. I don't know.
You know, I that resonates with me. I'm gonna go 425.
Okay. I'll go a good 400. And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to lose on this one because I want it to break even. I want it to do well. So, yeah. I'm excited.
But I also think that's close enough that whenever it comes out on digital and streaming, I think it's gonna get there for sure.
That's true. It'll make it. One way or another.
Alrighty. Any other closing thoughts on F1?
I don't think so. We can move on to M3GAN.
Alrighty,
I guess I'll update the number. Yeah, good thing I updated it because international just came in for M3GAN. That's crazy. They
Wild.
literally
Okay.
they just updated it while we were recording, so that's always fun.
Alrighty. So M3GAN
fun.
2. I think here it might be important to say how we felt about M3GAN 1. So you kick us off. M3GAN 1, how are the vibes there?
Oh my gosh, I don't know what I expected from M3GAN 1. I feel like I probably didn't expect much, but it was January. It was, a slow time. January's almost always pretty slow. And this was just like awesome. It's just one of those movies. It's like the first one was definitely a horror movie. I wouldn't sit here and say like it's scary though. It's more just like M3GAN was creepy and like the little bits of progression and her getting more violent, and then the big finale with her killing people and then trying to kill the family and blah blah blah. She killed a dog. Like, there's definitely horror elements there, but more than anything, M3GAN was just such a fun character to watch. It's like I can totally understand. It's one of those moments where it's like, I want to meet her in real life, like at Universal. So it's just, I don't know. She just seemed very fun. I mean, there's been plenty of movies about robots, about AIs, but I feel like this is one of the most fun ones.
It's very fun. It's really campy.
Yes.
I love seeing a modern campy horror franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't take it too seriously. It's not going to like, sit there and accelerate your heart rate to where you have a panic attack, but it's you're going to have some jump scares, you're going to have some creepy moments, and you're going to have a laugh. So, when she dances before she kills someone, that's still so funny.
Indeed. I do like the first one a lot. I also really like the messaging in the first one. I really like the way of looking at how technology is being used to like get around parenting, and you feel like you're not able to have these conversations, so you avoid them instead of trying to have them.
Yeah.
And the dangers of attaching to something that isn't a person. I think there's a lot of really important messages there, and it's a very fun movie.
Yeah.
So M3GAN is a modern original horror masterpiece, I would say.
It really is so good. Like, it's just its own thing. You either vibe with it or you don't. It's you're not gonna have an in between.
And we've had that conversation before, that sometimes camp just doesn't land for people. I will say, I think there are a couple of performances in that first movie that try to be camp.
Yeah.
And don't work.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But overall, like, M3GAN, and I think those main two characters, Gemma and Katie, in the first one, I think they all do what they need to make that a really solid movie.
I agree. Yeah, and then this movie, it was fun because I felt like they recognized, at least at first, what really worked in the first one and what would sell their franchise, and that's M3GAN. Because the first teaser in the Super Bowl, oh my god, I still remember how awesome that feeling was when we first saw it. So cool. When we was like, it was all pink and like someone was walking, we slowly realized it was M3GAN. You're like, yes, this is everything I want. I'm so glad they got this and they understood this and they know how to market this movie. Once we got the full trailer, it did seem more almost superhero-esque, like action movie.
It gave a lot of action.
Yes, and that's accurate. The trailer is accurate to the movie. It's almost not horror-esque at all. They have like a little bit where they like crawl on the walls or whatever.
There's elements of it in the beginning, but then by the end, it's completely gone.
Oh, absolutely. So I will say, that can be disappointing. However, they did market that. It's not like Materialist, where some people were complaining that they didn't market it as what it is. They marketed it as what it is, for sure, in this movie. And I will say, they also edited it a lot. There's a lot of stuff you see characters mouth and say in the trailer, and they still say the line, but at a different moment.
Yeah.
Which is very weird to me. It's not like they edited where like you don't see them say it, but you hear them say it, so you think that's the moment they say it. It's like you see them mouth those words, and then they don't. That doesn't happen in the movie. Also, I was thinking while you were talking about the first one, where was the guy's moment? The guy in the trailer that was dressed up as M3GAN, like,
yeah, no,
I don't care that she killed 5 people. She's a queen or whatever. I love her.
Does not
Where
happen.
was his moment? I loved him in the trailer. Ugh, such a sad day.
It's very interesting. So overall, we really liked the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going into this one, where were your expectations kind of set?
I mean, at first I was really excited, and then I could tell that they were going with a different vibe where it wasn't horror. So I'd be lying if I sat here and said I wasn't nervous going in. I even said before the movie, like, I'm prepared to, like, just not like this film kind of thing. Like, that's where I'm at, where I don't really know what to feel, but I know I like M3GAN, and we're going to see more of her. Amelia looked really cool in the trailer, and she was really cool in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know what else to feel, but I knew I was going to have a laugh. I was going to see the 2 robots that seemed cool. So I was like, there's going to be something I like. Even if I don't like the movie, I'm going to come out of this, like, feeling fine, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt better than that. Like, I felt like this was a fun movie. It's definitely different from the original, and I don't know where they would go from here, but I was excited to see M3GAN again. So, you know, what more is there to say?
Yeah,
So,
fair.
what about you?
I went in, I think, with some higher expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one was very strong. I was looking forward to seeing another really great example of messaging and, like, the pitch of what this movie is blending together really well.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be more action. I expected it to kind of level up in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, in my heart, I was hoping to continue some of those horror elements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
And I was expecting more camp and more fun.
Yeah.
So, and I was this was one of my higher anticipated movies of the year.
Yeah. So, and you know, they didn't really have a dance off scene, like before she goes off and kills someone kind of thing. She does dance in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this other thing that she does. I don't want to really spoil it yet, but it's really funny. It's so funny. I mean, our entire theater was cracking up when she started doing it. To Gemma. The, like, I don't want to spoil it.
We'll get there.
It's fine. It's really fun, and I feel like that was the dance moment. Even though she wasn't dancing, she was doing something else. I was like, this is M3GAN right here.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was a really great moment.
And it wasn't like I hate this thing, even though maybe Gemma hated it, but I kind of loved it. I was vibing with it. I thought it was hilarious. And it didn't go on too long, I don't think. You know, so I liked it. I vibed with it. I thought, this is classic M3GAN. This is the campiness that I wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I would say my general impressions is that I did like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it loses a little bit of its way from the first one.
Yeah, I think so, too.
It feels like they wanted to change what this franchise is.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't think it's for the better.
Yeah.
I think
like,
it's
where you go from here.
I think it's going into a place that's very, like, that's not as unique.
Yeah.
And so I think it's if they were to make another one, I would be worried that we've completely lost the plot of what made the first one so special.
Yeah.
I think you still see elements of that here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I fear we're taking some far steps away from that.
Yeah.
So I think M3GAN continues to glow as, like, the main reason to watch this movie. It is her movie.
Yeah.
She continues to be very fun. I think I'll always find her fun in these movies.
Yeah. She's as sarcastic as ever, and it's just hilarious.
Yes.
She's, like, M3GAN, I feel like, doesn't change in this movie.
Yeah.
The vibe-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Character development, yes. Vibe-wise, no. Still
Correct.
there. So, yeah.
So...
And it's fun to see her not be, like, the main antagonist. It's fun to see her in a different role.
I will say, I think her not being the antagonist here, I think that's honestly where a lot of the big change comes from.
Yeah.
Here,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to wonder, can you go for it if
she's not. Mm-hmm.
But we'll get more into that conversation in the spoiler talk. Let's go through our non-spoiler pros and cons. You want to get us started?
All right, yeah. So I liked the visual differences just in the design of the upgraded M3GAN and Amelia, and that's not a spoiler because both those things are in the trailer. So you can watch the trailer and see their visual differences and what I'm talking about. I appreciated that M3GAN still looked very much like. Actually, you should say what you were saying yesterday. That's a really good way to put it. So.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at the design. Amelia is obviously the one that was designed after the fact, so she's the upgraded version.
Mm-hmm.
But M3GAN has the design of like trying to make an android look like a human, whereas Amelia, it looks like she almost has like the design of like trying to make a human look slightly more android.
Yeah.
And like it feels like they do like editing to her face to make it look that way and like kind of unlock that uncanny valley. Like I think that the actress's facial features, Ivana Sakno, I think is how you say her name. I think she has some very unique facial features to like make her almost perfectly cast in this role.
Yeah.
But the editing that I think they do, or it's makeup, either way, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
To make
very
her like
cool.
just have that like hint of like
roboticness.
I feel like I can see that I'm looking at a human.
Yeah.
But like my soul knows I'm not.
Yeah.
I think they do some really cool stuff with the uncanny valley and like the different levels of that between these two characters.
Totally agree. Yeah. My only other main pro, because I just put like separately M3GAN and Amelia because I just loved both of them. But my only other one is I liked Gemma's storyline. I really liked seeing the aftermath of, like, what's that, Roxy? I don't even know. After what M3GAN did, seeing how guilty she felt because of that, and then where did she go from here, like with the parenting books and the anti-technology stance, or at least like a very controlled
technology.
Yes, not AI, just like convenient, making your life easier kind of things. So, and then talking about it on a political level as well, like I thought that was interesting, especially right now that discussion is very relevant, and it was fun to see a movie explore that. I hope more movies explore and touch on that, because I know for a while, like when Roe v. Wade got overturned, there was like several horror movies that would explore the horrors of giving birth, especially when you don't want to. So I kind of hope something like that happens with AI. I'm assuming it's going to be more gradual,
I think
but
it's interesting that with the M3GAN movie, I think that was like just before that conversation started getting really real.
Yeah.
So, I will
with
say
the strike and everything too, like
I think it's interesting the stance that they choose to take. I think it's a little surprising considering what the first one's messaging was.
Yeah.
And I almost want to get into a conversation about, do we think that's inconsistent with the themes of the first one?
Yeah.
Especially considering what I think they were building that first one to be.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if maybe we could. There's a conversation here on, do we think the studio chose to decide where the theming of this movie went?
Yeah.
I think there's some interesting stuff to be had in the spoiler section.
That is difficult. If movies do discuss this, what stance are they going to take? That's the big thing. So, you got to be really careful with that. So,
please go on.
Those were my only pros that I wrote down. I feel like I was looking at some of yours and I agree, and like I'm good just like hearing those.
Yeah, sure.
If you want. So.
This one, it's leaning away from horror, which I think is always typically a little more like narrow fielded, because it's focusing on one person's experience, and like the horror of what that experience would be like.
Yeah.
With it leaning more into action, it feels bigger in scale, and I think they do that pretty well. I think the evolution of like, what's the next chapter? Oh, another improved android.
Yeah.
I think inherently the pitch of the android coming after the makers that M3GAN is sworn to protect, I think that's a great pitch.
Yeah.
I honestly think they lose a little bit in this movie by veering away from that a little bit, because I think honestly that pitch is a lot stronger than I think the writer room almost gave it credit for.
Yeah, it's like they didn't want to follow through with that, so they
like, it almost felt like they thought
else.
it needed to be more, and I don't think it necessarily needed to. I think obviously you need to add some layers and context and themes to that, but I think that's a very strong idea of what this movie could have been, and that's what it was advertised as.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost feel like it's maybe a little bit of a con that they veered away from that towards
agree.
the end.
Mm-hmm.
Then other pros I had, they do have some very fun use of technology, particularly at the beginning when you see kind of how M3GAN comes back into the picture. They do some very cool stuff with that.
Oh, chilling.
Yeah, it's almost like she's a code ghost, which is very cool. I love seeing people, seeing mediums do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they do it very strong here. They also add some technology in here. Early on, you see Gemma making this, heavy, super strength suit for, workers and, industry so that they can, do lift heavy things a lot easier and stuff like that, and then they do some fun stuff with that technology throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Some very cool stuff. Amelia is a great addition. I kind of there's almost two different levels of this character throughout the movie where it's two different things. And I like the first one a lot better.
Yeah, me too.
But it's very interesting. I think the casting is very strong. And then they do some very interesting stuff to make her very different from M3GAN.
Yeah.
And then she has some killer looks throughout as well. So
She does. She
that
serves.
looks like such a fun role to have.
Yeah.
And then M3GAN, obviously, she's still here. She's still cunty. She's serving. She's sassy. She's everything.
Yeah. She's everything, and then who's the guy?
Cole's just Ken.
Dang, okay. Well, anyways.
But, she's super fun. I think her action level up is very fun. There's a surprise way that she shows up, which I super liked, and I thought was very fun. And there's a lot more to M3GAN in this movie than the first one, and I think it's definitely an interesting conversation of looking at it. And then they take an interesting stance on AI commentary. I think the first one was more a look at technology in general than just AI. Like I said, I fear that movie came out right before taking a stance on AI was important.
Yeah.
And I think they chose an interesting way to approach AI here.
Yeah.
This is definitely a statement on AI here.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will say, I think they take an interesting stance. I fear how I feel on it really depends on who that came from. Because I think there is a fine line on...
Yeah.
And obviously this is a movie focused on, not the whole picture. Gemma talks about, how we can use AI, technology to enhance human accessibility instead of replacing them.
Yeah.
And I fear there's parts of this conversation that overlook that there are people who don't care to keep people involved because it's always going to be cheaper to replace them.
Yeah.
So, what are we doing to make sure that these good ideas that we're having, are realized?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important to say, whether or not you want AI to exist and infiltrate the world, it's going to.
It'll always be here in some capacity because
yeah.
it's out of the box.
It's just so important to be very, very specific with how it can be used. Because there will be plenty of people, if you don't do that, that just replace everything with AI. And that's when it gets dangerous. But you can't sit there and say, it can't be a part of anything because that's just not going to happen.
Sure.
Unfortunately. So you have to say, okay, in movies, you shouldn't use it to make the whole picture. You shouldn't use it to replace an actor or replace a crew member. But with the tools you're already using, I feel like it's probably fine to make that process faster. Now, again, you still have to be specific within that. How are you making it faster? Is it animation and it animates it for you? No. But if it's the length of time it takes to download something or process something, if you find something that can make it faster, it's probably okay. Now, I don't know the specifics of how it does that.
It's a fine line. And to be fair, this is not a
That's
movie
what's
that wants to
tricky.
get into the specifics.
No. It
So,
takes a stance, but it doesn't specify, and it needs to.
I think
hard.
There's an element where it's like it's talking about AI and like taking responsibility for that also can relate to children.
Yeah.
Which I think is an element here that I think they try to focus on.
Yeah.
But I think AI is too much of a hot topic to like kind of leave some loose ends on.
Yeah.
What your stance is,
You
especially in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
As something coming from
Especially.
the entertainment industry.
Yeah. So, like, AI should not take over someone's voice. And quite frankly, there's too much talent out there to even manipulate the voice.
Yeah, I think
Just get someone who can do it.
Yeah, because I'm
So.
like the second AI potentially takes a job away from anyone else,
That's when it's too far.
Long past the line there.
Absolutely. If it assists a person in doing what they're doing in a faster way, then we'll talk about it, you know?
Yeah, then there's look at like using it as a tool
How
as
you're
compared to
doing it.
having
Yeah,
it
yeah.
be like the worker.
The worker. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. So.
So and I think in any case it opens up that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a constructive conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think there would have been some value in, if you're going to have that conversation, have it a little bit more in depth. But I don't know. It's not trying. I think the messaging here, it's there, but it's not as I think well done as the first one, which I think looks at that in a very thorough, like multiple aspects kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Berlioz, about the use of AI in the entertainment industry? You heard it here, folks.
I really hope y'all heard that. That was really cute. Oh my gosh.
And then also in my pros, it still is a very campy franchise. I like that they kept that, and then they just kind of translated that into action, which for me that works. I like campy action. I don't know if I can necessarily think of something that I would call campy action before, but without it being like a parody movie.
Like Twilight or something.
I don't know. I
Honestly.
fear Twilight is not as campy as some people want it to come off as.
That's so fair.
But it's definitely something similar to that vein. But I think it's interesting. I fear campy action won't work as much as campy horror for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But
I totally agree.
we can only wait and see how people ultimately feel about that. Those are my pros. You want to get into our cons?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to kick us off again?
Sure. Okay, so here's my hot take, is I really did not like the actress for Katie. I'm so sorry. I know you're a child. Actually, she could be an adult by now. I have no idea. But she plays a child. She's definitely young. Either, like, whether she's a child or not. But anyways, so I'm sorry. I don't want to, like, sit here and, like, talk crap or whatever, so I won't. But it really didn't work for me. I thought it was cringy. I just don't want to see it again. I'm sorry. And there's too many talented kids out there to be like, well, she's already here. I'm like, no, like, just get someone better, I guess. Sorry. I don't know. It was weird because it worked for me in the first movie, and it, like, really didn't work for me here.
I mean, I think there could be an element of why it worked in the first one where, you know, I think in horror, having like the kids that are like falling victim be a little weird.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a trope in horror that works. I don't think that works as nearly as well in like action.
With some acrobatics over here. He's like.
And I think
Flexible.
also the way she acts in the first one, having just gone through a trauma, there's like an argument for like that being like a response to that. And obviously that'll always be a part of people who go through trauma. But, you know, in a franchise where it's talking about her having gotten over that and moving on to what her new life looks like.
Yeah.
You know, it feels for that to be like an untalked about part of the movie. It feels, I can see why that doesn't work for you.
Yeah, because there should be like an evolution there, and I just don't see it. I see the same naive kid. So, but then they don't explore her still going through that as much. They explore her growing, but then I just don't see that growth in the acting. So I don't know, but it's also partially on the director to to point that out and bring that out, and that didn't happen clearly. So, yeah.
I will say I don't think she does great work here. I think she's fine for me. Mm-hmm. I honestly think it's almost a shame that I think her role takes a heavy backseat here.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate because she was like a big part of the first one.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to see her be so backseated here.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting because...
And, ultimately, another element to maybe talk about, maybe was that on purpose?
Maybe. Well, and also because Gemma in the first one is kind of just taking a back seat and letting technology take over, versus this movie, it's the opposite. She's very present. She's very like, I need to fix what I did. I need to be present. I need to work on this. So it makes sense why she's brought to the forefront. But it is a shame that, even though I didn't like the acting, just from a story perspective, it is a shame that Katie takes a back seat. But that might have been purposeful. So I don't know. And you know what? Ultimately, I'm okay with that because I didn't like the acting. But, whatever.
What else you got?
So there's a twist towards the end that kind of goes straight into Act 3 that I didn't know how to feel. Like, I still don't hate it.
I will say it surprised me because I didn't super see that coming. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I guess I should have possibly been tracking this, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So good on them for, like, tricking me. But then I wish they realized it a little more.
Did he try to jump on your leg?
He did, but he's playing it off.
Really funny. The other day, he, like, stuck out his hand to, like, touch Luke's hand, I think, or something like that. And then, but then it didn't quite reach, and so he kind of goes in and starts licking it. He was like,
play it off.
I didn't do anything. It's like when people go for the handshake and then they do like the hair thing, like in K-pop.
Watch yourself.
Yeah, that's what it was giving. Anyways, I don't know. I still don't really like it. I don't hate it. It did surprise me.
I feel like the twist could have worked, but then I fear they go too campy with it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like what you said. I wish they just kept going with what they were doing with
There
M3GAN.
was a pitch of like what they thought was happening with the twist.
Yeah.
And I fear that would have been a lot stronger for the franchise and possibly the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe not the movie because it goes against the theme that they're trying to build towards, but
yes, yeah.
Overall for the franchise, it is what puts this movie or this franchise in a really weird place if it is going to go forward.
I agree. So, I don't know. But, I couldn't possibly fathom what a sequel to The Black Phone was going to look like, and that trailer looks really good.
Looks really good.
If they can think of something, props to them. And maybe they already had something in mind, which is why they went with that choice. Hopefully. We'll see.
I will say, this franchise going forward will not look like what I thought it would be.
No. So, oh well.
I don't know. I fear I was hoping it would take almost like a Chucky turn. Because Chucky is also, I would say the first one's not campy. Every other Chucky movie is incredibly campy.
Okay, good.
And
I haven't seen them because I'm not a huge like doll person. I had a big fear of them for the longest time, specifically like porcelain dolls, like not like Barbie dolls, but like specific. They just look so creepy to me.
No, the doll Chucky. Oh my gosh, I was super scared of Chucky as a kid, specifically because I'd like come in on one day and like the Child's Play was on the thing, and it was a scene where like the doll was like attacking the mom, and there's in the house I grew up in, on top of a grandfather clock in the living room, there was this like Little Tikes doll that looked very similar to Chucky.
Oh, absolutely
like,
not.
Like overalls and like curly brown hair instead. And he like had a hat, and it was like, and like the chubby cheek smile.
Not.
And I was like,
no.
And, like I came in and saw that, and I was like,
no. I went through, I think, my grandmother's things one time, and I think she had one, and I was like, absolutely not. You need to get rid of that right now. I ain't sleeping in the same house with that. I can't. Like, the porcelain dolls. I had plenty of Barbie dolls as a kid. Like, I mean, duh. Everybody likes Barbies. But, gosh, not the porcelain dolls. Absolutely not. Even, like, the baby dolls. Like, the actual, like, baby-shaped baby dolls. Even those are, like... like, the ones where if you tilt them back, they'll blink. No. No.
I will say, I would like,
Absolutely not.
because there's a Chucky show that I never finished. I
Okay.
started it and it was really strong,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really great because it feeds into a lot of those like extended movies in a
Yeah.
really cool way.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to someday maybe sit through the Chucky movies with you. They're not, the first one is like the scariest in terms of it being a doll coming to life.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like campy gore.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I will say-
I'm braver now. Okay. Early college me, probably not, but now I've seen enough movies. I've seen Hereditary, I've seen It Follows, and neither one was as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
so
the Chucky
I'm
movies, I
ready
think
for
the
anything.
scariest one is the first one, and then
Okay.
it just becomes like about the kills.
Cool.
So I think it,
Especially
and
once-
even the first one is, it's the oldest one. So
Yeah. Especially once we watch The Conjuring, we watch Sinister. Like, I'm good.
Sinister, I think,
it.
is one of the scariest movies that I've ever seen.
That one was pretty creepy.
Especially
will
like
say.
on the first watch, when you don't know what's happening. Oh, that one's good. Anyways, back to Megan. So sorry, but.
And then speaking of all the horror stuff, my last con is that it doesn't have a horror vibe anymore. I think that's a shame. I didn't hate what we got by any means, but I do miss the horror vibe, and they don't seem interested in going back in that direction. So.
And that's another thing.
well.
It's produced by Blumhouse, which is a horror studio.
Yeah, people were pointing that out, and that is interesting. So the first one, that made sense. This
Yeah.
one, not really.
This one, it's like,
Like, I
are
can't
you
see
trying
why.
to go beyond being a horror studio?
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't a great. Maybe I fear there's a
Not a
reason
good
you've stuck
pitch.
to horror so far.
Yeah. Well, it's like I could see why she was at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, but now I'm like, why would she be there? She's nice now. So, I don't know. You're so purry.
Yeah. Any other cons you wanted to add?
No, that was it. I'm good.
Some of the ones I had, I continue. It's not horror. The villain twist. I think the initial reveal works. Everything else
Yeah.
doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I continue to think the future of this franchise. Before this movie came out, I had a lot of faith in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I fear it just being like, if it does have another sequel, I don't know how it can't just continue to be the pitch of this one. It's like, oh, another robot we have
Yeah.
to fight, and it's like,
Then that gets tired.
that's gonna get old the second you do it again.
Yeah.
In the third one. And then
I don't know.
there's also the cast are like the FBI members in this movie, and they also don't work for me.
No, I feel like they never worked for me. The character that turns out to be a villain, I feel like I didn't love his performance on that.
I thought he was fine in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then whenever it goes into that twist, it like becomes a completely different character, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Like, oh, okay.
right.
Because at first, he was explaining himself, like, yeah. Okay.
We'll talk about it in
Fine.
just a second.
Okay.
That is all of the cons I really had. I fear they're pretty big.
Yeah.
Even though it's not many, I fear they hit too strongly.
Yeah.
But I think we can go ahead and get into spoiler talk, and you can continue your
Okay,
point. So
sorry,
you have been
guys.
warned. We're getting into spoiler talk on M3GAN 2.0. So the twist villain, it was, oh my gosh,
Christian.
Amelia was being controlled by Christian the entire time.
Lame.
Very lame.
Anyways, his explanation was like, okay, so you're just like crazy, but then he turns into like a different character, and it's like, it worked for me when he first started explaining himself, and then he just sat with that for a while, and then he wasn't the same character. He was like full on evil, and I was like, oh, okay. Whatever. Because it's one thing to like want to control technology in a way that you think is right, but everyone else is like, clearly that's not gonna work out. But then he's just like, then he does evil things. He's like wanting to take over Gemma's mind and like force her to be on his side, and that's when I was like, this is going too far.
So when you say that out loud, Christian, do you hear yourself?
Yeah, it's like, that's like not even a delusional kind of justified thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just delusional. Like, you're just not the same person.
Like, welcome to Get Out.
I'm like, okay. At least them, there was like a sinister vibe that whole movie. It's like, these people are sus. And so then you're seeing their true colors. This guy was like, he was so
Also
nice.
starring Allison Williams. Small shout. But anyways.
Well, she was evil on that one. Sorry to spoil Get Out if you haven't seen it. What are you doing if you haven't seen it by now? That's an amazing movie. But anyways.
But
She ate that like, oh my God, they're right here. The keys. She got to eat. I was like, oh my God.
Oh no, Grandma.
I was like, damn. You got to get out of there. You got to get out of there like right now. But anyways, go watch Get Out. It's really good.
It's so good.
And it's actual horror, so they go.
Yeah. So
Or
Christian
thriller,
did not
whatever.
work for us. So the
Yeah.
Amelia twist that she was being remote controlled the entire, like, first 2/3 of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that also doesn't work. Because, I don't know, then it's a fine line of, so if she's not having artificial intelligence of her own, so you're telling me that all of those combat moves that couldn't be countered by an actual AI robot was, like, programmed, like, in, like, remote controlled with each step? That doesn't work.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
And then, also,
crazy.
there was that scene where she's, like, undercover as, like, being, like, seducing the tech guy.
Yeah.
And, like, then she's, like, not responding to, like, the kiss at all, which is, like, so cool. Do you, like, as an artificial intelligence, this is funny, but then if it's being remote controlled and it's, like, so you want him to, like, realize that she's not into this.
Yeah.
That's very weird. That's a very weird choice.
Yeah. I agree. It just doesn't work on any level. Maybe if you tried for, like, I don't know. It's just like artificial intelligence. That's the whole scary part about it, is that you can't control it, or you think you can, and then it goes off on its own. And she just almost never does. To just find out that that's not what was happening. It was so lame. Like, no, they ruined a baddie.
And then, like, the black box, it feels like they were almost trying to copy Final Destination with the entity being locked away somewhere and trying to get unlocked. But on a
Mission Impossible?
Yes. What did I say?
Final Destination?
No, correct. Mission Impossible. I was
That's
thinking
the Final Reckoning, yeah.
But the idea of, like, trying to find
That's
this
funny.
evil AI that was supposed to, like, shut everything down and ruin everything.
Yeah.
And then she gets, like, storm-like whenever that gets uploaded, which also feels like
Yeah.
a step way too
When
campy.
her eyes were glowing, I was like, huh?
Do you know what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning?
I was like, what's happening right now?
Very goofy.
No.
So, overall, but I like their action scenes a lot, even though, in retrospect, the first 2/3 don't make sense.
Yeah.
I
Kind of
like-
crazy.
Amelia, I love her design. I think it was really fun the way they worked with her, like being able to separate her torso and legs.
Yeah.
I think they used that in really fun ways throughout
Yeah.
the first couple sections.
Especially with Katie. Now that we're in spoiler section, when it's just the legs and then Katie gets, like, dragged from behind through the wall, like, that was really cool.
Absolutely.
Very fun. Anyways.
And that,
And then the arms on Gemma when she got knocked out.
yes, that was
Oh, I loved that. Just the slow, like, rise. And then it's like this. And they're like, huh? And it's Megan.
that
and
was
you're
giving,
like,
oh my god, that was actually giving some
Together?
Malignant.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of Together when she does that in the trailer.
Oh, interesting. But I think
You know?
that I think is done in a little bit of a different way, but we'll get...
I mean, it's
Oh,
more
I
in
cannot
like
wait.
a.
I've started seeing advertisements for that movie.
I'm not
like,
watching
everywhere.
it.
I'm so excited for it.
I can tell you right now, like,
Ugh.
I'm not watching that movie. Oh my god, no. I don't like The Substance. I didn't even watch that until it was on streaming because I was like, I don't do, what is it, body horror? I need to skip stuff.
I'm so excited.
I loved The Substance, but I'm never watching it where I can't skip it. I'm sorry. Like parts of it. I can't. Kind of crazy.
Ugh.
I still get haunted by
such
that
a-
scene in Spencer when she gets the, like, pliers, cuts her arm. Oh my god, I still get, like, haunted by that.
But I also really like in the vein of horror elements still being here a little bit in the beginning, whenever like the suit, like the strength suit was like on its own and it just like didn't have a body in it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. One early on, Amelia comes down a wall. Megan still has her little run on the ground that was in the trailer, which was fun. I'm so glad that was still in the trailer.
Still in the movie.
Or still in the movie, because a lot of stuff was not.
Yeah.
Oh, and we got to talk about the singing.
Oh, I love. Okay, how did you feel about the singing in the first movie? Because I remember.
Oh, the titanium.
Well, because first there's the
Is
song.
that what she sings?
There's 2 songs that she sings.
Okay.
First, she sings in like the pitch meeting where it's like Katie starts having the breakdown of her parents, and then she starts being like, "I'll always like save your memories of them," and then she starts singing to her in the pitch meeting, and then like the people, like the board members, start like crying and like dabbing their eyes.
I don't remember that. Oh my gosh, I remember titanium, but
And then there's the titanium when she's like, "I will always keep you safe, even if I have to kill people. I am titanium." And I think that is very
really
campy.
funny.
It works a lot for me because, you know, there's I feel like there's a lot into the choice of why picking that song.
yeah.
Because obviously she is almost an unstoppable robot
Yeah.
made of titanium.
Well, and it's a little bit of an older song too, and so if this AI had been in the works for a while, like that could also make sense why she would throw back to a song like that. So it's kind of fun.
And then it's a song that that the kid would have known before.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like trying to connect with her on like a, here's me trying to reach out to you, but then there's also the subtext to it where it's like, yes, I am an unstoppable robot that is like basically bulletproof.
Yeah.
And I super like that. I can see how it doesn't work for a lot of people if you're not willing to look at the subject of why is she singing this popular song right now.
Well, and again, it's AI, so even the awkward actions she does, it can be excusable, and I can be okay with it because it's not like a human that gets like shy or embarrassed. Like, it's an AI. It's programmed to comfort. So.
And then one last thing in the movie, in the first movie, on the piano, whenever she sneaks back into the house, she plays Toy Soldiers, which, you know, as a toy, I love that bit. And and like she doesn't sing it, but like she plays and it's so chilling.
I do remember that. I just love the first M3GAN.
And then in this one, the song is a moment I think that's very reminiscent of the first M3GAN.
Yeah.
And I love that Gemma's so not into it.
Because now she's comforting Gemma, and that's... Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I keep
absolutely
interrupting you. I'm sorry.
I think feeding into like what her original programming was, I think that's why it feels so reminiscent of the first one. And it almost feels reminiscent of those people who weren't into the singing parts of the first one. And it's like, you're gonna listen to what I have to sing. And I love like the way that her hand just like rose. It's like almost Muppety.
Yeah.
Where it's like the don't speak, don't speak, don't speak.
And then she tries to stand up and she's like, no, try.
It's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love that part so much.
I mean, I theater was cracking up. I was so glad too because I really wanted to laugh loudly, so it was nice that everyone else was. So I was like, no one's gonna yell at me if I laugh right now. It's okay. I don't have to hide it and hold it in. So.
Ooh, in the vein of talking about M3GAN down there in that bunker, I love the idea that like her ghost presence. I loved her being like the code on like the television screen.
Yeah.
Loved her like touching the walls of that.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Being in like the projector and walking that way was very cool. The TV, how she defended them when the FBI was in the house. I thought all that was pretty creative. Kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that she's the reason they have the house, and she's like, and Gemma's like, well, everything came with the house. It's because M3GAN
and then they
designed
have the
it that way.
bunker down in the basement where she has been like, she has like creepy portrait of them, and I love her like made body. It's like something straight out of like Sid's room from Toy Story. Oh, that looked so cool. And I like that it felt like, even though yes, she's an AI, I like the idea that it's like, you know, she's evolved beyond that to a point where it's like, you know, she definitely feels like she's coming from a real place.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Katie's playing with that idea of like, is this what you're programmed to do, or are you beyond that, and are you something that like can actually feel this way?
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. And then, she comes back and she's an AI on the computer again.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if... I fear a body for her is going to come back at some point if we get a M3GAN 3.
Yeah.
But I think it's a touch. I don't know. I guess that would have had to be like some existing code put there before she sacrificed herself at the end of that big finale, but...
I guess, yeah. I don't know, man.
Trying to think if there's any other things we kind of jumped over. Did the action here work for you? I like a lot of the action. I still really like the like shot of her like gliding into the bunker. Like with
that was really funny.
Flying squirrel suit.
Mm-hmm.
Very fun.
Yeah, I agree. And then just constantly not being dead and waking up at the right moment. Being in Gemma's head was fun.
Yes.
Just the way they used M3GAN when she wasn't in the body was, I thought, very creative and fun in this movie.
Absolutely.
So, and spooky. It had like a close to horror element to it.
Yeah,
they were
and, like,
trying.
Whenever she's like taking over like Gemma's body, I think there's some like possession elements there that are very fun.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the way that like they look, the first and the second one, the way they look at her as like outside of the body and like what she can do continues to be very interesting.
Absolutely. So that's all I can think of.
Yeah. So in general, I think our consensus can be it's campy action.
Yeah. It's still fun.
It's
still a good time.
But not the first one.
Not the first one. Mm-hmm.
And I think
in
we'll
vibes
see a
and
consensus among honestly kind of everyone that it feels like they were like I almost wonder if they were told to get out of horror with it. Because it just is such an odd choice.
Yeah.
To leave the horror space, especially when horror's having such a moment these days.
Yeah, and it's Blumhouse. Like I don't know. That is interesting.
It truly does kind of feel like some studio exec was like, I see what you're trying to do here, but that's not what I want people to think. So here's what you're going to do instead.
Yeah.
Like it truly does kind of give someone else was pitching. Like it feels like someone threw some stuff in the kitchen and everyone else just kind of worked around what they were forced to work with.
Well, it's interesting because it almost feels like someone out of touch suggested this because like they were thinking superhero movies were having their moment when in reality, if anything, it's the opposite. If anything, we're having a superhero fatigue moment, which sucks. I'm not, but general audiences maybe. Oh my gosh, you're gonna fall.
King. So,
he's out.
Looking at reception for this one, and let me see if I can't find the original M3GANs as well.
Oh, I remember the cinema score was a B for M3GAN. So this one got a better one. It got a B+.
Interesting. That's surprising.
Yeah.
So the first one had a 93 from critics. This one has a 58, which I think... Big
difference there.
I think
honestly, that's fair.
Very fair. The audience score for the first one was 78. This one is an 84.
It's kind of crazy to me.
I feel
crazy that critics got something and audiences didn't.
I mean, clearly there was some kind of... I don't know. I don't know what it is. I fear this is maybe in the vein of like wanting like the turn off your brain movies. Because I don't know, they weren't receptive to the messages in the first one that I think made it so strong.
Yeah.
Although I still think it's a super fun movie regardless.
Yeah.
Here, I think the messages aren't as strong, and there's so much like in your face, like, oh my god, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And it feels,
That stinks.
It feels like it's a lot flashier than the first one is, and I guess if you're not thinking about it, you can be like, oh my god, this is more of a movie or something. I don't know. I completely disagree with that sentiment, so it's hard for me to try and put it into words.
Rationalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it looks like audiences are feeling some sort of way about this one. The first one had a 6.3 on IMDb.
Okay.
And so it's a point lower than this one.
That's crazy.
I can't fathom someone finding this movie better than the first one.
I don't know, man.
I mean, maybe if you like action more, and like maybe I don't know, maybe there is an element that people are less treat horror harsher, and this one is less horror and more action. But
Yeah.
I don't know. There's
Also, there were like several kids at our showing.
Another
It was
great
so
point. I'm
weird.
surprised that there were such young children here. To be fair, it was.
They weren't like maybe they were.
Some
It
of them
would have
were
been
pretty
like
young.
at least like 4th or 5th grade. But still, that's pretty young for these movies, I will say.
To be fair, this first one isn't nearly as like gory.
Yeah.
The first one I don't even know if I necessarily say is super gory. There's like a couple of scenes that are that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like someone tried to make this movie more PG-13
Yeah.
and like general audience easy.
Yeah.
And I fear like, I guess the audiences are receptive to that. But also, as we'll see when we get into the numbers, it has a much weaker opening, and the critics and I think the movie fans aren't here for it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you got a trade-off, and I hope you either like what you got or you're able to go back.
Yeah.
Because those are the options. So, looking at the box
Crazy.
office, the original M3GAN opened with $30 million in its first weekend domestically, and it went on to eventually gross a total of $181 million worldwide.
Yeah.
So right now, M3GAN has opened domestically with $10 million.
Oh, refresh. It had with international. It's 17 million.
Well, domestically, it's opened with $10 million.
Oh, that was domestic.
Yes.
That's
That was a
crazy.
$30 million domestic opening for the first M3GAN. This one is a third of that with $10 million.
That's crazy.
And we are looking at a $17 million total.
Mm-hmm.
So there's about $4 million under in terms of the international. It's a very low number.
Yeah.
Internationally, the first one did 86 million. Domestically, it was 95. So there's a pretty good comparison there. Like that's a pretty decent.
Almost
split.
even.
It's close to even.
And then here we have about 10 million
it is
and
aggress-
7 million.
It is very much more domestic.
I mean,
Which to
only
be fair,
3 million less. But
I fear we're going to see this continue to be a pattern. Think
I
it's
don't
gonna grow.
know. It's definitely not going to make. I don't think it's going to make as much as the first one for sure.
I think it's going to be far from it.
I don't. Is it even going to hit the century mark, do you think?
I think that is a great question. How much was... Let me look at the budget on this one. This one was made
20
for $25 million.
Yeah.
The first one was made for $12 million. So they doubled the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The first one made a great budget considering,
Yeah.
or made a great profit considering that.
Mhm.
This one needs to have made, to get into that break-even point of the 2.5, we'd be looking at
62 and a half.
around that, yeah. So, I fear this is not a great start to get to that point.
I mean, I think it can hit that. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get much
that
higher.
because the first weekend is going to be where you get a lot of your stuff, and I fear that it's going to have a big drop because audiences like it, but I fear the word of mouth is not going to be great on it. I don't think anyone's going to want to come back to it,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's going to draw new people in who weren't already wanting to see it this first weekend.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, box office wise, I don't think it's going to hit it. I feel like it could do better digitally, so I feel like it can make some of it up. But, yeah, especially with, like, the amount of action blockbusters coming out in July, that's going to steal all of its thunder.
So for M3GAN 2, where do you think the final box office is going to be?
I feel like it's going to be like 50 million.
I think that's going to be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say I think that's going to be very close to where it hits.
You can. I mean, you
I'm
can
gonna go
guess the same
55.
thing.
I'm gonna guess-
Okay.
55 million is where my guess is going to be. So,
Sure.
which is, I think it's unfortunate. I think they had something really special with the first one. Do you think if it performs how we think, do we think it'll get a third one? Do we think a third one is even on the table if this one does well?
I mean, because my answers of do I want one, I mean, I'll take it, but I'm not sitting here itching for one like I was after the first one. I honestly don't think so. Or
Well-
they'd have to have a good pitch.
Before this one, I was wanting them to get more into like the line of like looking at what Chucky did.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously it never picked up as a huge franchise,
Yeah.
but you know, in the vein of like how do you continue this story,
Mm-hmm.
I think they find some interesting ways to do that. And I think having more androids was the answer, but I was thinking more androids that were on her side.
Yeah.
Like I imagine for some reason I so specifically saw like the fourth movie in this franchise being like people for M3GAN, and it was like some kind of like mini like army or this like group that she was making of like getting the production line up and like getting more of her made.
Yeah.
I fear that's not in the cards now because like we were saying she is now a protagonist.
Yeah.
So
She's a good guy.
you know until
good
she
girl.
gets summoned for the AI Avengers.
Good little AI robot.
I don't know.
I guess. I don't know, man.
I don't see
They're
what a
like
sequel
evil
action movie to
little-
her would be.
Yeah.
For her would be.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where we go from here. Like I said, I think if they do a third one, they have to have a really good pitch. Like the Black Phone too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
And probably go back to horror.
I hope they go back to horror.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the strongest thing for this.
Clearly that was more profitable, so
Yeah,
There
do
you
you
go.
think if they make the switch to horror that they can get audiences back?
maybe they'd
I-
have to really push the advertising on that to really say we are back to horror for those of you who, you know, that's why you were here. So,
Another part of it, I think, is the timing of it. Like,
yeah.
I think this movie also would have done a lot better if it released in one of those earlier months like the first one did.
Yes, that's also maybe they should look at release date as well.
Because I feared maybe this is just like an early year franchise. Because there was so much time I think this movie could have done really well.
Yeah, because this was such a slow start to the year. It had all the time in the world to do really well releasing in those months, but it didn't.
Yeah, and then
so.
here it's not only is it not, you know, number one, I think people anticipated it being counter programming to
It's not even in
F1.
top 3.
It's 4. It's under I think it's under
Elio.
Elio. Which, you know, I love that for Elio, but you know,
Ugh.
that's not where you want to
No,
be.
because Elio's not doing well, so it's like you don't want to be under Elio right now. So
So it truly is a
kinda
wild
crazy.
place for this movie to be, and hopefully they can do a little better. I will say I feel unfortunate that M3GAN 2.0 is one of my draft picks.
Dang.
Hate that for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I will say I want to go on the record. I fear that Alicia is gonna be pulling out the win on the draft.
We'll see, because I still want to sit here and see how Superman and Jurassic World's gonna do, because word of mouth for Jurassic World has not been good. Superman quite the opposite, but I haven't heard a lot of word of mouth because they're not allowed to for Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Very curious.
And then
to
I
see
still
how
have the
this one goes.
Smurfs, because
Yeah,
for whatever
Smurfs.
reason I picked that one on my list. I don't know why, but anyways. Oh well.
Yeah. Later today, I'm gonna start updating our draft list in our movie tracking list for the year. See
That
what our
weapons
updated
critic
scores
and
look.
audience score is gonna like 1-2 punch for you. Like
I
I'm
bet that's
so
gonna be great.
excited for that. Ugh.
And I also,
it's not even on
I
my
don't know,
list.
I also
I'm
think
so
the Bad
excited.
Guys 2 could do some damage.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we will see. I think I have some later ones because those are 2 August movies. So
Yeah.
and like I did say, I don't know if I said it on the record, but I think there's value in having mine kind of sparse throughout the year, whereas you were saying yours is very like middle of,
Yeah.
you're done like by the next
Yeah.
middle of next
Like
month.
it's not it's gonna look like it's me for a while, but it might not be. Like, it's anyone's game until August.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll see. I'm curious to see when yours is locked in, how much I have to, like, catch
up.
up.
Mhm. Yeah.
but we'll see.
We could
We'll
do some fun calculations on that.
We will keep you guys updated. I imagine we'll probably have an updated draft score in our next episode.
It's like when you're in school and you calculate how much you have to make on a test.
Yes,
to, like,
it's
pass.
exactly like that.
Oh, that'll be really fun, though. I haven't done that in a while because I've been out of school, so I'm excited for that. Anyways.
That being said, thank you guys so much for tuning into our conversation on F1 and M3GAN 2.
Yeah.
Let us know what you thought of these movies. You can see them right now in theaters. What did you think, and what do you want from a M3GAN 3? Do you think that's something on the horizon? What would you want from it?
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I am your host, Luke.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for listening to Not So Straight Nerds.
Bye.
Toodaloo.